Alright, we're gonna try a little game called Take a Step to make you guys feel a little more comfortable with each other. It's really simple. Okay, guys, so take a step if you bought coffee this month when you told yourself you shouldn't have. Take a step if you currently owe a friend money. Don't be shy, guys. Don't be shy. Take a step if you tend to buy products impulsively, whether that be junk food, clothing, or maybe even video games. And finally, take a step if you purchased Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Games Tokyo 2020.
Dust whirls on the plain, making patterns as we walk down Lover's Lane. Seems that each new step is somehow preordained.
So when I was a kid, I went to church every Sunday with my family, and one year they decided to implement a new fun point system to keep the kids coming back every week and, get them invested within the church. So every week when you showed up to church, you would get a little wooden fish. You get these fish every time you did something neat, like memorize a Bible verse or something like that. And if you collected enough of these wooden fish, you'd be able to redeem them for a prize at the prize booth. Well, my two brothers and I had the genius idea of pulling together all of our wooden fish over time to get one big prize. So week after week, we showed up to collect our wooden fish, and one week we realized that we had enough to get the grand prize, the big kahuna, the whole enchilada, the golden goose. A $25 gift card to Toys R Us. Now, $25 was a big deal back in the day. I mean, we spent months collecting these fish in order to get this prize, and by God's good name, we were gonna spend it the right way. So after church, we jive on over to the TRU and we stroll the aisles looking for that $25 price tag that would catch our eye. And then we settled on what we thought would be the prime reason we waited all those months with wooden fish weighing down our pockets while we did the Jesus Grapevine during sing-along on Sundays. The Price is Right electronic board game. It was a hefty prize. Electronic, tactile, futuristic. We were just drooling over this piece of technology. Well, for the past 10 years, this turned out to be the worst purchase I have ever made. For years to come, I would think back on that moment with deep regret as the worst financial decision of my childhood. We didn't understand how to play The Price is Right. That game's for my dad, not for a fourth grader. I don't know what I was thinking. We barely ever touched that game, and for good reason too. We wanted to play a game that captured our attention, used up our childish energy and gave us true competition between one another. And I wasn't smart enough to know it at the time, but that game already existed one floor below in the basement of my house. It was called Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Games Beijing 2008. It was a game that used its Wii to its full potential, with competition, replayability, and a lot of personality. One of my favorite games of my childhood, and one that can still give me a good workout today. So for years, this dumb decision to buy The Price is Right kept me up at night, and I always wished that we picked anything else at the Toys R Us that day. But these past few years, that stress kind of went away. $25 isn't that much to me anymore, and it really wasn't worth a decade of stress put on my shoulders to keep worrying about it. And life moved on. It didn't just move on, life was actually pretty good. Until about 11 months ago when I saw that a new video game was gonna come out. One that caught my eye and gave me something to look forward to. It was called Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Games Tokyo 2020. I thought, could this really be happening? A new Mario and Sonic for the Olympic Games on the Nintendo Switch? A game that could get my roommate and I all riled up with competition once again? They say you should never buy a game before the reviews come out, and they're right, but this game was different. I had a deep connection to this game, and even if the reviews came out and people said it was mediocre at best, I would find a way to wring the content out of this game like a wet towel. And boy, was I wrong. So with that background out of the way, let me tell you why Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Games Tokyo 2020 is the worst purchase I've made in my entire life. Okay, let's start from the beginning. Starting the game shows you a pretty decent animated sequence that builds up to the worst title screen I have ever seen in a Nintendo Switch game. You couldn't have just put Mario and Sonic on a track or surrounded them with other characters doing different sports. It doesn't even show them in a competitive state. They're holding 2 gold medals. That is the opposite of what this game should be representing. Even the logo on the home screen shows this white background. So the part that everyone skips past when they're trying to start up the game is going to have all the cool stuff, and then the 2 main parts that people are going to see before they start playing the game are going to be the most boring thing they can think of. They literally have the same exact pose in front of a background on the physical copy of the game. The cover of the 2008 game, they're competing. The cover of the 2012 game, competing. Winter Olympics, competing. 2016, competing. The 2020 game? But that really doesn't have any effect on the gameplay, so let's move on. Let's talk about the story that nobody bought the game for. The story mode is filled with these long, lazy dialogue scenes with the same repeating animations of characters on a static backdrop with just straight up normal photos in the middle. You've got 0 voice acting, very few animated cutscenes that show very little effort, and it's just characters dropped in next to each other grunting as you read text. Mario, why are you looking directly at the camera during the scene? You've been in show business for 35 years and you don't know the most important rule of filmmaking? Then they decide to develop the storyline in a cheeky way where they can throw characters into their 8-bit and 16-bit universes so they can show even less effort in their animation than they already were. And then the story mode just becomes this rinse and repeat of excruciating dialogue that lasts way too long and then facing off against a CPU in a mediocre minigame. So then you'll do that for 4 hours and then we'll just call that the story mode of a AAA video game. So now let's move on to the bread and butter of this hot pile of trash, the multiplayer. Pick which country you're gonna side with in World War III and then we're ready to go. Notice how the single system mode says quick match? Well, don't worry about that. I'm sure it's just as expansive as the 3 modes that the game from 12 years ago had. Single match, circuit, and mission. Well, no, it's a quick match and that's about all the game has to offer. But hey, that's what I bought the game for, right? A quick match with some friends. So let's get into it. Let's just start with the 100-meter dash and choose our characters. Wow, we have 20 characters to choose from. Well, not exactly. You see, unlike every other installment of the Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Games, besides the 3DS version of the London Games, Tokyo 2020 does not show the unique stats of each character. So there's really only 4 character types to choose from and you get virtually no description of how your character is going to perform beyond those 4 types: power, technique, speed, and all around. To be fair, it is reported that each character has a small advantage within their type, but when the gameplay is so quick and stale and you can't tell what those advantages are without looking at MarioWiki.com/Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Games Tokyo 2020/characters, I don't think it matters much to the player and it feels like shallow gameplay. But this isn't Super Smash Bros. Let's just do the race. Okay, just Super Saiyan your way to the finish line and in a nice 16 seconds, your experience is completely over. Oh, you pressed A too fast and missed the results? Well, that's the only time we're gonna show it. Sorry. Yeah, no, you got it right. We're not gonna show you the results while we show you standing on the podium. Yeah, no, I can see that there's a screen dedicated to showing that you got first place, but no, I'm not gonna put your time next to it. Now go back and pick a new event and a new character and we'll just start over from there. Now it's not really worth going through every single event in this game. They're all just repetitive mini games that utilize maybe 3 or 4 buttons to play. The only good times I had playing this game were during Rugby Sevens and Archery, but besides that there's very little to be excited about here. The Wiimote and Nunchuk from more than 10 years ago were utilized better in the 2008 game than the Joy-Cons were able to be utilized in 2020. Half of the events react weird to the motions they tell you to use with the Joy-Cons: hurdles, discus, and swimming, just to name a few. And there's 3 Dream events in the game. Dream Racing is a bad Mario Kart, Dream Shooting is just a really bad third-person shooter that lasts too long, and Dream Karate is a weird top-down punching game where you just run around and punch each other for 3 minutes straight. They all last way too long and they're not worth playing. And then you have the Tokyo 1964 minigames, which are just bad 8 and 16-bit versions of the few minigames that use about 2 buttons each. Now the 2008 game had this mode called Circuit, and it was my favorite mode in the game because it was basically just a bunch of preset events that you could play with a friend, and it all added up to one big score, so you could face off for a good 10 to 15 minutes and one person would come out on top by winning multiple competitions. Even better, you were only allowed to choose one character across all those events, so you had to weigh the skill of the character with the diverse set of events that you have to play. There were 15 of these circuits, and they had so much replayability along with this token that you could use once in the circuit to double your points in a specific event, so you were allowed to use events that you were specifically good at to your advantage. The 2020 game, as you may expect, does not have this mode. You play one game and then you go back to the event page and start over. And this would be fine if the mini games had some depth and time investment in them, but the games are super short and they have less depth than the games from their previous installment over 10 years ago. See what I did there with that little transition? I gotta read the script off my phone now because my computer's behind me. The average time it takes to play a game is about 100 seconds, with the shortest being the 100-meter dash and the longest being sport climbing, a game where you just rock climb for 4 minutes straight. There are some other games like Rugby Sevens where you can extend the time and make the game maybe 5 to 10 minutes long, but with the gameplay this monotonous, there's very few games where I would want to do that. Now, if this game did have some sort of circuit mode, it could really dig itself into the competitive nature of the game and make it a lot more fun to play over and over again. And while we're on the topic of the game being more competitive, let's talk about the record system. Now, this is the Olympics, you know, like the worldwide event that's centralized around competitiveness every 4 years. The 2008 game had a heavy emphasis on the records in the game, and it makes sense. The reason you're playing this game is to play against your friends and beat each other's records. So please tell me, for the love of all that is holy, why you cannot hold a record in this game unless you're playing as the first player. Let me make this clear. If you're not the first player in the game, your score is just non-existent once the game is over. Oh, you just beat Nick's record in the 100-meter dash after trying for hours? Oh, but you're Nick's roommate and you have the second controller on the Switch. Well, no, I don't think you beat this record. I also think you're Nick and you're trying to use 2 controllers so you can get an even better score than you already had. So no, I'm not going to let you have that record on the system. It just doesn't exist. So along with not letting you compete against your friend in a circuit mode, the game also doesn't have a record system that allows you to be competitive with your friends and beat each other out. And if you try to look at the results, you can accidentally just skip past that scene if you hit A one too many times once you finish the event. So all in all, it's just failing to fulfill the purpose of the game, which is competitiveness. The game is just boiled down to the blandest version of the game that came before it 12 years ago, and it really doesn't even look that much better visually. So there's been a lot of complaints that I've had over the game, as you can tell. So why don't we just figure out how to fix it instead of just complaining, you know, give some constructive criticism, if you will. So here's the question I came up with to try to help the developers, you know, that obviously they don't care about what I think about the game, but let's just hypothetically say they do, and they're asking me specifically what I would want out of the game. How do we fix this game in a way that still allows the developers to be as lazy as they are, so they can squeeze out a game without actually trying and still make money? Well, here's what I think. Number one, you got to get rid of the story and spend that time on something else. This is a multiplayer game, so no one really cares if you have a story or not. Number two, just completely get rid of the Tokyo 1964 versions of the game and throw away the whole concept of the 8-bit and 16-bit games and characters. This game's just going to take place in 2020 and that's it. Number three, just put a background on your title and logo. Number four, show the stats of the characters on the character select screen. It's already been proven that each character is slightly different, so just give a visual. Number five, let me see the records of the game I just played on more than one tiny screen. Maybe add a records section to the settings of the game that lets you see the result of maybe your last 10 games you played. Number six, if someone breaks a top 10 record for an event, let them put their initials in for the record screen. Not just the first player, but any of my friends who want to play with me. Number seven, just completely get rid of the quick match screen. Just add a single match in a circuit mode. I won't even make you do a mission mode. And number eight, as I said before, implement a circuit mode. You literally just have to string together random events and add a point system to the top 3 winners of each event, and then just add up those points at the end. You can even make it a custom circuit so you don't have to do all the work and name them all. Just let the players pick like 5 of their favorite events and then they can go crazy with it. In conclusion, if the developers just saved the time that they spent on the story mode in Tokyo 1964 and they just added these other features that would probably take them a day to do, they probably would have saved hours and hours of work and made the game so much better. Keep in mind, I didn't even ask them to actually make the game like actually better in any way. The crappy mechanics don't even have to be any different. The mediocre visuals don't need to look better. And it doesn't need this half-ass story that doesn't mean anything to anyone who actually wants to buy this game. The reason this game is bad is because everyone who was involved in making it did not care about it whatsoever. It's all these things surrounding it that make it so bad, and despite putting millions and millions of dollars into this game, it sucks so unbelievably much because of these simple oversights that could just be fixed in a day. But at the end of the day, I'm the sucker because I spent, and you're hearing this right, $60 so I could have this game on day one. Thank you for watching, and please subscribe if you like this video. I started posting a lot on TikTok, so if you want to hear some shorter form content, stuff I do in between videos, you can follow me on there. I started streaming a lot on Twitch, a lot of Dark Souls, Minecraft, VR. You can check me out there if you just want to watch some streaming. Links will be in the description for those. And then I just graduated from school, which is also why videos haven't been happening as much. But now that I'm back on track, I will be back on schedule posting videos every Monday on this channel. Oh, and you can check out my website too if you want to hire me for a job. I need a job. Bye. It's the outro part of the video. Subscribe to me if you're feeling alone. If you play the video next to you while you sleep, the warmth of your phone feels like we're cuddling. I talk about different topics like that game Disneyscape, Jet Set Radio, that game 50 Cent made, music theory, Toys to Life, villagers in a fight every Monday on your feed, as long as you just hit subscribe.